slowly but surely getting up there. And when we look at the rest of the Northeast and into New England, it's pretty similar. 58 for Boston, 52 for Albany. We have 51 over for Buffalo. And we see a little bit warmer temperatures further west. That's always a good sign because that means we'll probably warm up as well. We'll just make it into the 60s today. 61 is the expected high in New York City. 62 out on Long Island. We do expect to stay in the upper 50s down the shore. Maybe we'll hit 60, but as of right now, it looks like probably 59. If you're in inland New Jersey, you get a few degrees warmer, about 63 or 64. Up in the Hudson Valley, 61. And then Monticello will also stay in the mid to upper 50s. So it's pretty much on par for where we usually are this time of year. Our average is about 64. And a record was set a very long time ago, 87 degrees. It hasn't been that warm in quite some time. All right, now it also feels a couple degrees cooler because we do have another day of strong wind speeds, and it's a northerly breeze, so it's bringing cooler air, of course. Consistently, those winds blowing 5 to 15 miles per hour, but gusting 20 to 25 miles per hour. We don't have any wind gusts right now in New York City, but everywhere in the tri-state has just been kind of going on and off of having some stronger wind gusts, but it's not as bad as the past couple of days. So we looked at this a little earlier, and I mentioned how high pressure is going to keep us clear and dry for a couple days. But then we have this system approach, and an area of low pressure bring us some showers. I also mentioned how, yes, it could be really late Sunday, but it even looks like kind of midnight, 1 a.m. Monday is when we start to get some rain. So I think your Sunday is going to be clear to make some outdoor plans. It's actually going to be really nice. Lows tonight, 47 degrees in New York, but pretty much anywhere north of New York City going to get into the 30s. So we have 35 for Hartford, 39 for Bridgeport, 36 for Poughkeepsie, and 34 for Monticello. Then tomorrow, we crank it up a couple degrees. 65 is your high in New York City, 64 out on Long Island. We have 66 for Newark. Look at Trenton, 67 degrees tomorrow. Even the Hudson Valley, a high of 64. Same with Hartford. Then we got even warmer for Sunday. Remember I said we can make outdoor plans. Not going to be too bad. A high of 72 with plenty of sunshine. Just that chance of seeing some nighttime showers that take us into Monday. But for the next 48 hours, we're in the clear. Bianca?
Sounds great, Liv. Thank you so much. All right, to this now. This is a crazy story. An injured butterfly is able to fly again after undergoing a wing transplant at a Long Island nature preserve. Fox 5's Jody Goldberg spoke with the wildlife rehabilitation director who performed the first of its kind operation.
On any given day at Sweetbriar Nature Center in Smithtown, rescued wildlife of every kind, from squirrels to snakes, owls to opossums, are getting care. But on this day, it was a butterfly that needed help.
It came in with a deformed wing.
For Janine Bendixson, this was the chance to try something she always dreamed of doing.
The receptionist said, "No, I don't think we do butterflies." And so she asked me, and I'm like, no, bring it in.
With patience and precision, the wildlife rehabilitator performed what she calls the first of its kind butterfly wing transplant.
We took a wired coat hanger, cut it, and made kind of a loop so we could place it over the butterfly and had its wings spread out nicely so that we could perform the procedure.
And Janine was able to find wings like these on the ground, and if you look closely, you'll notice the body is missing. She says there's a reason for that.
Yeah, that's really the only edible part of a butterfly is the, something that's nutritious for the insects that you find on the ground. They'll eat the body and not the wings.
First, she attached the wings with contact cement.
I had to make sure the black veins lined up, that it was the exact wing that went to the body.
Then she dusted cornstarch over the glue to stop sticking and replaced the damaged wing with one found right here from the butterfly house.
I literally put him in my hand and he flew off onto a branch and then flew off from there.
Now with new wings, this monarch is ready to continue its journey, heading south to Mexico.
If it's a boy, meet a lady, and if it's a girl, definitely would come back part way and lay its eggs.
As for Janine, her story's gone viral, spreading from Long Island to around the world.
This is one little insect, and the fact that I think we cared enough at Sweetbriar to save its life and let it go onto its journey, I think that's powerful.
Giving new meaning to taking someone, or in this case, something, under their wing. In Smithtown, Long Island, Jody Goldberg, Fox 5 News.
That is pretty incredible there. All right. Well, the Broadway revival Ragtime taking the stage at Lincoln Center Theater. Next at noon, we're taking a look at the opening night curtain call featuring some celebrity VIPs in the audience. And country music taking over the Las Vegas Sphere. What the Zac Brown Band is saying about their new residency.
Lucky Cheryl.
Well, Spotify announced a partnership that includes all three major music companies to develop AI music products. It will include Universal Music Group, Sony Music Group, and Warner Music Group, as well as digital licensing company Merlin and the distribution services company Believe. Now, it did not say what specific software or AI tools will be developed, but stated in a blog post yesterday that the companies are working to create, quote, responsible AI products that empower the artists and songwriters that they represent. Spotify also said that it started to create an AI research lab and product team to develop the AI products. All right, it was a packed house at the Lincoln Center Theater last night for opening night of the Broadway revival of Ragtime. There were some major VIPs in attendance, including Vogue's Anna Wintour and Hillary Clinton. The musical is an adaptation of the novel by author E.L. Doctorow, following three fictional families in their pursuit of the American dream. Now, the show is in performances now through January 4th. All right, Pop Culture Jeopardy getting another season, but not on Amazon Prime. The game show has been renewed for a second year on Netflix. That change is reportedly due to a shift in strategy by Prime Video executives who agreed to allow Sony Pictures Television to shop the Jeopardy spinoff to other outlets. Variety reports that Colin Jost is in talks to return as host in the brand new season. Pop Culture Jeopardy debuted on Prime last December and ran through March. New episodes expected to arrive on Netflix sometime next year. Meanwhile, country music is heading to the Las Vegas Sphere with Zac Brown Band as the band launches a brand new album. Zac Brown Band's album Love and Fear is launching in an epic way with a residency starting in December at the Las Vegas Sphere. Zac Brown says he utilized the album's themes in their vision for the production.
The title of the show is Love and Fear, so that gives us this ability to do a juxtaposition of things to where you're going to feel very uncomfortable and kind of scared at moments, and then you're going to feel like you're soaring over beautiful, majestic scenery at moments. I'm very, very excited. It's my baby. It's our masterpiece so far, and it's worth all of the effort and work that goes into doing it.
Well, Brown adds that the band is grateful to go on this new musical journey with their fans. All right, next at noon, with people drinking less, many are turning to low alcohol and no alcohol wines and spirits. But coming up, an acclaimed vintner joins us in studio to showcase some new options if you're considering making the switch. She is one of the most accomplished women you will ever see on TV. We're chatting with her next. Stay tuned.
Fox Local.
Well, a new line of no and low alcohol wines and spirits are hitting the market, and they come courtesy of a vintner who's been called the face of Argentine wine and named a top 25 wine innovator. Not to mention, she's also an Ivy League graduate and practicing pediatric doctor. Joining us now is Dr. Laura Catena. She's managing director of Bodega Catena Zapata and owner of her own winery, Luca Winery in Mendoza, Argentina. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bianca. I just want to, clarify that I was practicing until 2020.
I was going to say, because you're way too busy to keep doing that. It is pretty incredible, your resume. My mind is blown when I look at it. Stanford trained, Harvard trained. I know you practice as well in San Francisco, but you're also fourth generation winemaker. First of all, to be able to accomplish all those things and still have children and be in love in what you do, how do you do all that?
Well, I'm kind of crazy, and my husband's not very happy with me. So I try really hard. I try to do my best.
That's pretty incredible. When you talk about the things that you learned in medicine, being as accomplished as you were in medicine, and taking that to winemaking, was there anything that you brought over from medicine that you turned and translated into making wine better?
Yes, absolutely, because, winemaking comes from the vineyard, and there's a lot of science involved, as well as art and instinct. And yes, there is so much that transfers. And here with the non-alcoholic wines, actually thinking about how to make a wine that you can alternate between alcohol wine, non-alcohol wine, so you can maybe moderate better, drink a little less when you want to. It's been really helpful for coming up with this new project of the no-alcohol wines.
When we talk about the no-alcohol wines, I think there's been maybe a stigma that they don't taste as well, and you're not getting the same experience when you drink actual wines. But what have you learned in this process of making these low-alcohol, no-alcohol wines?
First of all, I still think that wines with alcohol taste better. Better with food. They give you a little extra joy when you drink them, in moderation always. But I think that now we have reached a level of no alcohol wines, these two particularly, that are really good. And most people think they have alcohol. And that's really exciting that we have some non-alcohol products that are, maybe not as good, but close to a wine with alcohol.
Okay, just to give people some context here, obviously these ones are no alcohol, but you and your family have put Malbec, and you have put it on the map of Argentina. This beautiful one.
The Catena Malbec.
This has changed the way people look at Argentinian wine. This is like the history of your family and what you've done. So get some context here before we start with the no alcohol one. So first explain what you brought here for us today.
So first it's the Rosé, which is from the domain EDM. EDM is for Elena de Mendoza, my mother. And then the second one is called Brunette. And the first one is a de-alcoholized wine. So we do this thing called vacuum distillation. It's the opposite of concentrating the alcohol, like for cognac. You do the opposite and you get less alcohol.
Interesting.
And then we add rose petals. Incredible aroma. And then the second one is with botanicals. So we do grape juice of the highest quality Chardonnay and something called verjuice, which is more high acid mineral with botanicals.
Right, we got to try it.
And they're both delicious.
Okay, so we're starting here off this one.
Start with the Rosé.
Okay, well, cheers.
Salud. Salud.
Oh, that is lovely.
Isn't that delicious?
Is this one with the rose petals?
The rose petals.
I can smell that right off the nose.
And the food, can you imagine the food pairing of this with a risotto, with a pasta?
This is beautiful.
Anything, right? With a plate of cheese.
Wow. Okay, I love this. And then we're going on to the second one, the Brunette.
25 calories per glass.
Well,
also,
that means I could have 10 of them.
Yes, you can have 10
Obviously,
of them.
I'd never be buzzed.
Yes.
Okay, so the second one is the Brunette.
Yeah.
And you added ice to this.
So we added ice because I think it's better, and they're both sparkling.
Oh, this smells
and a little
lovely.
Orange peel, right?
Oh,
right? Clove, chamomile.
Oh my goodness.
A little eucalyptus. You can taste that, but you also have these really high quality Chardonnay grapes.
Yes.
That's why it's so good. Yeah.
I could drink this all day. Where can people find these two vintages that you have here?
You can find them at wine.com.
Okay.
And just Google where to find them. So we're just releasing the second one, the Brunette, to the market. The first one's pretty widely distributed in the U.S., but the Brunette is just coming in. So I'd say for now, wine.com is a safe bet, but it will soon be distributed in many places.
Incredible that these taste incredible. Incredible that your background is just as accomplished as it is. And thank you so much for joining us at the noon. We certainly appreciate it. If you want to have some alcohol, though, some real alcohol, you got to try her other wines as well. So we didn't even get to that. All right, more noon straight ahead. Stay with us. Well, a lifelong artist who suffers from depression is using art as a form of therapy. Good Day Wake Up anchor Deshani Whitlow takes a look at his inspiring story.
I take very challenging, like I said, mental health issues, or in a lot of cases, existential emotional experiences that we all have, and I make an attempt to come up with a visual for them.
For as long as Charlie Sertoff can remember, he's been connected to art.
I've always found a sense of flow in the creative process, so I've always gravitated towards it. This has been the first medium that I've found that really combines graphic, but it's also sculptural. What you might have a hard time seeing unless you're very up close is that each of the individual panels of a rug or yarn or color are hand sculpted, that I use the clippers in order to give them a certain shape and depth. And so for me, it very much satisfies this like tactile need to work with my hands to create, with this other like need to create these like beautifully visual compositions.
Charlie, who has spent the last 20 years in tech, building and designing software as a product manager, suffers from depression and found comfort in tufting 2 years ago.
I found it to be incredibly therapeutic, almost as a form of like art therapy.
Tufting is a textile art that uses a tufting gun to punch yarn through fabric, blending design, therapy, and craftsmanship to turn personal stories into colorful, textured works of art.
Last November, I started taking concepts from my own personal mental health journey and then creating visualizations as a way for me to process those very challenging and confronting things about myself.
This piece is called Feelings Aren't Facts. It represents a job loss can shake your confidence, but not your strength.
She is like powerful, planted, stoic, present, staring forward, rooted into the ground, while what's a representation of like overwhelming feelings, the red and white kind of circles gravitating around her head are trying to overwhelm her, but she's not really like paying those any mind, not paying them any heed. The one on the left is called Magical Thinking. Now, this is probably one of my most abstract pieces, if not the most abstract piece. And it's magical thinking, for people who aren't aware, is representative of the idea of manifesting possibility.
The design process can take a day or it can take a month.
So I'm partially red-green colorblind. And a big reason that I gravitate towards these incredibly bold colors and high contrast is because, well, it's a lot easier for me to see. And I can only imagine what it must look like to others.
Blending his love of art and tech, he created a 5-second animation that brings his vibrant work to life, creating a space where people can connect and feel seen.
I want to continue making art that makes people feel a little less alone, and I really want to encourage people to find outlets and mediums, especially in the art therapy sector, that can help them with their mental health journey as well.
It's pretty incredible artist as well. All right, it is the last day to visit an MTA pop-up store in Gravesend, Brooklyn. Next at noon, what you need to know to get your hands on some vintage items from subway and bus lines. Well, today is the last day to visit an MTA pop-up store in Gravesend, Brooklyn. It is selling vintage items from subway and bus lines, everything from station signs to tokens and maps. Many buyers express glee at getting things that would otherwise go in the trash.
It's a little heavy, but the 182nd, 183rd Street sign, and that's exactly where my whole family lives, so this is really means a lot to me.
And I actually came, funny enough, for an NYU sign. That was my goal, and I said in the line, I said, I really want an NYU sign.
All right, well, you got a little time left to check it out. The MTA pop-up store is open today at 23rd Avenue X until 2 p.m. Let's get a final check of the forecast with Liv. I guess if you got another day to go out and get some of the signs, you got some good weather you're working with.
Yeah, and that was cool stuff.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of like memories people can hang on to. Very cool. Yeah, we have a high of 61 degrees today, so it's a little bit chilly, but not too bad. Plenty of sunshine, not just today, but really for your entire weekend. Most of us in the upper 50s or low 60s today. If you're out east, expect 62 as your high. Same thing throughout Connecticut, Hartford, and Bridgeport, both 62. We have 61 for Poughkeepsie. We stay with upper 50s down the shore in New Jersey. We go up in temperatures for the next couple of days. 65 tomorrow, 72 on Sunday, you guys. Really nice, comfortable weather. A little breezy at times, but nothing like we had earlier this week. We do expect to get some rain really late Sunday. More likely it's going to be kind of those early hours of Monday. So next week's work week starts off not too great, but then it warms back up a little. Bianca?
All right, looking good, especially on Sunday, Liv. Thanks so much. Well, that is our show, but before we go, here's one last thing to leave you with. Grubhub is taking steps to accommodate the odd hours of its college customers. Starting tomorrow, the food delivery service will offer snooze insurance to students living on campus. The company says its research shows that many college students order food in the early morning hours after parties have ended. But the problem is 72% fall asleep before their order arrives. If that happens, customers who are Grubhub Plus student members will be given a chance to receive a $15 credit towards another meal. Snooze insurance will be available until November 1st. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. 25 words or less is up next. If you want more news, tune into the Fox local app streaming right now.
And welcome to Newsroom Live, everyone. Coming from the Fox 5 newsroom here in Manhattan, I'm Linda Schmidt. You can catch us every day at 1 o'clock from 1 until 1:30, bringing you the latest news of the day here, not just locally, but also what's going on around the country and around the world. Right now, we're looking at another gorgeous shot of lower Manhattan. It's a beautiful day here in New York. It's about 65 degrees today, and it looks like the weather over the weekend is going to be fantastic. So if you are in the Northeast, have a great weekend because the weather's going to be good. All right, we have a lot to get to for you today. First of all, we are going to go to a live shot right now. We have a camera right outside the White House. We are waiting for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to show up at the White House. He has a meeting today with the president. Now, what Zelensky is hoping is that the president is going to agree to give him the Tomahawk cruise missiles, which he says are desperately needed in the war with Russia. Now, the reason he wants the Tomahawks is because they have a long range. They can travel far, about 1,000 miles. So he wants to be able to reach deep into Russia to penetrate and destroy things, say, for example, like the military sites, energy facilities, and some critical infrastructure. And the reason he wants to be able to do that, he thinks that if Ukraine gets these Tomahawks from the U.S., that would be a strong incentive then for Russian President Putin to then agree to come to the negotiating table and start negotiating an end to the war. Now, last week, President Trump seemed very open to providing those Tomahawk cruise missiles to Zelensky. But then yesterday, he had a lengthy phone call with Putin. After that phone call, the president seemed to be downplaying the idea of providing those Tomahawk cruise missiles to Zelensky. So he's had a change of heart between, at least from what he is saying publicly, from what he said last week to what the president said yesterday. So again, as soon as Zelensky shows up, we're going to get back to this shot here for you, but we are waiting for him to arrive at the White House. Now, in the meantime, a lot going on here in New York. One of the number one stories, the mayor's race here. Last night was the first mayoral debate. It was expected to be fiery, and it was. Now, the candidates talked about everything. They were asked questions about everything from crime to experience, cost of living here in the city, the Israel-Hamas ceasefire, and how, if each of them, if they were elected, how they would deal with President Trump. Okay, so right now we're going to go to some of that sound from that debate last night. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Police defund the police. They took $1 billion out of the police. The NYPD is now down at one of the lowest levels in modern political history. I would add 5,000 police, put 1,500 in the subways, raise the starting salary because you can't hire them.
Mr. Cuomo lies again and again and again. I am not running to defund the police. I am running to actually work with the police to deliver public safety. Andrew Cuomo says that he has stood up to ICE. He has not said a word about the abductions that are happening right now.
Andrew Cuomo, because when you were governor for 8 years, your parole board released 43 cop killers back into the street. Okay, your father, when he was governor, released none. I knew Mario Cuomo. You know Mario Cuomo, Andrew.
What the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer.
If we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity, and what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
I created the Guardian Angels to provide public safety in the subways and streets when government was incapable of doing so. I didn't do it to get a title or a paycheck. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, because they have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face.
Salaries are stagnating, costs are up, New Yorkers can't actually afford their apartments. And I will also take action to actually ensure that the landlords of those buildings can better handle their costs by taking on their insurance, their property taxes, and their water bills.
The mayor can't say legally he's going to freeze the rent. There's a rent guidelines board. There are certain considerations that have to be looked at. You're right, Sally. You can't say today what it's going to be in 4 years. Also, freeze the rent only postpones the rent, because then you have to have an increase to cover the costs.
My whole goal is to improve and not to move. I'm concerned about the seniors, especially those that own homes. If they're 65 and make less than $250,000, no property tax, because the property tax is way too high.
Okay, now at least 2 of the candidates are back on the campaign trail today after that heated debate last night. First of all, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, he was on the Fox News channel earlier today, and here's part of what he had to say.
Sequel
Escape from New York Part 2, that's what you're going to see. Problem is, I represent blue-collar working-class people in the outer boroughs whose all their equity is in a home. They're not going to have the ability to cut and go like the billionaires and those who are well-heeled. So I have to stay and fight for them.
Donnie, you see him right there. He is at the very powerful union here in the city, 32BJ. They represent workers like janitors, airport workers, school custodians, security guards. Those are just some of the folks they represent, working class New Yorkers. And he was there because he was taking questions from them about what their concerns are, and he was answering their questions. And this happened just a little while ago.
Protecting this city from the Trump administration is a vision that will have your members on the front lines, whether they are defending immigrant New Yorkers or defending New Yorkers in housing court, defending New Yorkers from either the crisis of authoritarianism or the affordability crisis.
All right, now as for Andrew Cuomo, we haven't heard from his campaign team yet today, so we are not sure what he is going to be doing today. But earlier today on Good Day New York, they had a political analyst who's also with New York Law School. His name is Ben Max, and he gave a breakdown and analysis of what he thought about the debate last night and about how each one of the candidates did. Did any of them throw a knockout punch? He spoke with Rosanna and Kurt this morning. We're going to go ahead and roll that now so you can hear what he had to say.
Last night, was there a headline from last night's debate?
No game changers from this debate. You know, you don't see anything that's sort of capturing all the headlines and making big waves. But that means that Zohran Mamdani, as the front runner, had a pretty good debate because he didn't make any huge gaffe and nobody really brought him down significantly. But I did think in the debate itself, if you just look at how it was debated, Curtis Lewa had a pretty good night. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean he's got huge momentum coming out of it, but he was in the middle of the stage there. You know, he had the camera on him a lot. He had a little bit of struggle at the beginning getting a word in edgewise. But he actually, you know, again, he didn't have a primary. So this was one of the first times he's really had this kind of attention on him. And I thought, you know, he had a solid debate. But they all did pretty well in terms of getting their talking points out.
So let's talk about funding, because obviously, you know, Mamdani has been running on, he wants to make New York City affordable, but that includes a big tax increase. Andrew Cuomo last night said basically his funding is a myth. Well, do you think that hit home with anybody?
Yeah, a little bit. One of the central themes of this whole race is Mamdani has promises and Cuomo's saying you don't have experience and your promises are unrealistic. Those are both at least somewhat true. The thing for Mamdani, though, is if he wins this election, he will have that mandate and that momentum to go and try to convince the governor and the legislature to give him some of these tax increases. The governor doesn't want to do that. The legislature in an election year doesn't really want to raise taxes. But if they're going to come to some sort of compromise around raising taxes on people who earn $5 million plus, $10 million plus, that's not going to hold Democrats.
He's going for $1 million.
No, he is, right. But I'm talking about where there's potentially room for him to bring in some of this revenue. At the same time, you have a $200+ billion state budget. If the governor wants to find some money in there to help expand childcare, which he's gotten at, fund more free buses, maybe not the whole system, there's going to be room for compromise there. But right now, he doesn't have any guarantees of that. So he's promising things that we don't know if he'll be able to deliver, and that'll be the number one thing the next mayor has to do is quickly go to Albany with whatever agenda they have, whoever wins this race.
Okay, so the debate was last night. My question is, in this day and age, can debates really change people's opinions? Or does it really kind of solidify preconceived notions either positively or negatively about a candidate?
If you have some big moments coming out of a debate, I think you can sort of rattle people's attention and maybe move some people from one candidate to another. Like I said, we didn't really have that. But a lot of New Yorkers are just starting to really pay attention to this race. You've got just a few weeks till Election Day, so they're getting more impressions of the candidates. When you see them all next to each other, you start to think more, who looks mayoral, who acts mayoral, what do they really stand for?
Is that why Sliwa mentioned right off the bat that he took off his beret, you think?
Well, he's been going around the city talking about this, which is funny. But yes, he wants to be taken more seriously. He says for some New Yorkers, that means I got to take off the beret. So he did a little bit of that. Cuomo trying to draw the discrepancy around experience and stature, and Mamdani talking about it being a new day for a new generation, new vision, you know, leaving behind the old experience. But I think one of the key things coming out of this is when voters start to really pay attention, you've got Cuomo trying to take Republicans from Sliwa and Democrats from Mamdani. Sliwa trying to take whatever Republicans and conservative Democrats Cuomo has. You know, there's a real battle for votes here as we head down the final stretch because we haven't seen a general election like this in modern times with three really, sort of viable candidates.
Okay, so you had the first debate last night. Generally, when there's more than one debate, the second one isn't nearly as tuned into or paid attention to as the first one. With that in mind, what does each candidate have to do going forward, because the next debate's Wednesday, to get a little bit of momentum before early voting starts that weekend?
Well, Mamdani's got the momentum. He's the front runner, right? So he needs to sort of not make any big mistakes and then keep doing the things he's been doing, focusing on affordability, rallying his base. The key for him in the primary, which will be the key for him in the general, is can you turn out your voters in these high numbers, the younger voters who don't always vote. So they're going to be trying to do that. For Andrew Cuomo, going into that second debate, one of the keys for him is he keeps attacking Mamdani, but where is his vision? And he still hasn't been great about saying his plans are unrealistic. Here's my plans, and here's how I'll deliver for New Yorkers. And I think that continues to be one of his biggest weaknesses from the primary into the general. For Curtis Sliwa, it's an uphill battle. He's clearly in third place in this race, but can he's firing criticisms in both directions, and I thought pretty effectively at the first debate. Can he pull from both the other candidates?
Obviously, crime and defunding the police, big topics last night. Mamdani went on TV and said he never said defund the police. And then you go on X, and people have pulled up, I don't know how many tweets.
I think he said he changed. He didn't say he never said it. He said he changed.
Maybe he said haven't said it in this campaign, which is the dance he's been doing this whole race.
But he has.
Oh, sure.
A bunch of times.
Well, this is where you've seen in the primary and the general him walking away from that and apologizing for tweets about the NYPD, talking about I'm not running on defund the police. This is where voters have to decide.
I know.
Do you believe he's had a change
because he obviously is beholden to the DSA. The DSA is very strict on what they believe. They've been caught on camera saying that Mamdani's going to toe the line. And Mamdani says, go to my, he's been here saying, go to my website.
My platform is what's on my website. Right.
So who do you believe?
Well, this is for voters to decide, right? Mamdani's saying, here's my platform. It's not the DSA platform. Yes, I'm a DSA member, but here's what I'm running on. Here's what I want to deliver.
Is that true?
Well, we all have to decide, and the voters have to decide whether you believe that that is his narrow platform or whether he reverts to more of the things he said in the past, believed in the past, whether he is going to be beholden to DSA or he's going to stick with this platform he's put forward. He has promised that he is going to focus on the things he's put forward in this race and bring in professionals to run the government to do the basic services.
He hasn't said who they are.
Well, none of the candidates have really said who they're going to put. Because you don't want to put it out there and then have them go, I'm not serving with you.
Right.
But this question about whether he would try to keep the police commissioner is out there. I don't know that she wants to